It feels like I haven't been teaching a lot, but I haven't. So today we have class. Next week, no class Tuesday or Friday. And then the following week I'll be here. And then the week after that, the last week of July, is Ragbri, and hopefully I'll be on that. So sorry, it's been spotty, but I really appreciate you guys sticking with me. So we're gonna start actually on our backs. So take your blanket and make I'm gonna make like a a pretty high blanket roll. Since it's beginning of class, you may not want it, excuse me, got a frog in my throat, as high as this. And you'll just lay it down and then watch. This is important. So you want the bottom of the blanket on the lower scapula, so the shoulder blades. And then you just lay over the top of it and let the shoulders come down to the mat and come to cactus or T, whatever feels better for you. Just going to start with a little heart opener. And sometimes when you start this way, it feels really stiff. So just be gentle with yourself. Don't go too high if it feels uncomfortable. You don't have to have it as high. How's that, Helen? Pretty good. Little stretch here. Is it okay?
Oh, feels fine here. I feel
Really?
my back is so tight.
Yeah. So maybe this is good. That's what I was thinking. So as you lay, I just wanted to share. I listened to a podcast, a TED Talk actually, by Dr. Caroline Notbart. She must have been German by her accent, and it sounds kind of German, her name. And she was talking about how she's found a way to hack her brain. And we all have this ability to hack our brains. So when you think about hacking a computer, you get around things so that it works. And so she's talking about hacking your brain. And we've talked about these kind of things before, but I like the way she named things. So the monkey mind, you've heard before, where your mind's just kind of here and there, and whatever direction a thought comes into your mind, you just go with it, and that's called the monkey mind. And a lot of time that's reactive. So you just react. And she calls the monkey mind the default mode network. So we fall into the default, right? The way we've always done it, we just do it again, and it's not very mindful. And that uses the part of the brain that's called the amygdala. So monkey mind, craziness, amygdala. And then she calls the other good part of the brain the direct experience network. So maybe you can associate that with mindfulness. So being really present with what you're doing and making choices about how you do it. So direct experience network. And that involves the prefrontal cortex. So when you're in the direct experience network, in the prefrontal cortex, you're more creative, you're more turned into others, you're more compassionate, you're more focused. It's healthier for you because you're not sending cortisol into your body with all this reaction. You're more patient and you're calmer. And there's been so many research studies that actually show how much better it is for you to be in this direct experience network. And so that's what she calls hacking your brain. So if you've noticed that after yoga, you feel a lot calmer, it's because when you do yoga, you have to be mindful because you're so focused on what you're doing that you really can't think of much else unless you're in a pose where you don't have to think. Or sometimes we even can get into the monkey mind default mode in yoga if we move really fast and we're just kind of reacting to whatever I say for you to do. So we're going to work really slow and mindfully today, okay? And you're probably ready to get off that blanket. So bend your knees and roll to the side and come on up to all fours and just keep your blanket the same and set it off to the side, okay? Because we're going to come back to that. And come to all fours position. And just kind of notice your hands, your knees in line with your sits bones, heels in line with your sits bones. And then very mindfully work your spine into a cow pose. And then very mindfully, just really noticing the movement of your spine and each vertebrae move into cat. Just moving slowly and with your breath, work through the two poses. Don't just do the two poses, just really notice how it feels and how everything shifts in relation to each other. Be in the direct experience mode. Helen said her back's really tight today. Mine is too. Just notice how it feels and maybe loosens up as you move between the two poses. And one more round. And go ahead and sit back to a child's pose. So stretch your feet. And just go mindfully and slow. See how it feels in your knees and your ankles and your hips. Your arms, even notice how a little relief in your wrists after all that. Just breathe deep into your low belly. See how that feels. So even in this pose, which isn't really moving much, just see what you notice, what you feel. Direct experience mode. You're using your five senses. Feel your breath. You hear your breath. Visualize your breath. Feel your body. Hear your body. Maybe it's creaking. Good. And then come on back up to all fours. Bring your hands forward of your shoulders a bit. Curl the toes. And lift up slowly and mindfully to downward facing dog. I'm going to have you stay here a while, so I really want you to feel comfortable. So feel the hollow armpits, the shoulder blades back, but then broaden your clavicles so you feel supported front and back of your shoulders. Feel all parts of your hand connected to the floor. And then just bend one knee and the other, see how that feels. You can find your nice long spine that you worked on, not bending one way or another. It's just feeling really strong and long. Good. And then move forward into a plank pose. Lower your knees. Stretch back to child's pose. Keep your arms extended, and on your next inhale, move forward into cow pose. Exhale, curl your toes under, bend back into downward facing dog. Inhale, come to plank. Try not to get into that default mode. Just follow, lower your knees on the exhale. The back child's pose. Just, you don't have to go all the way back if it doesn't feel good. Inhale, come to cow. Exhale, curl the toes, lift downward dog. One more time, inhale to plank. Exhale, lower the knees. Child's pose. Inhale, cow. Exhale, curl the toes downward, facing dog. And again, just pause there. Just feeling the connection everywhere, feeling the breath, really mindfully taking the pose of Adho Mukha Svanasana, a downward facing dog. And then slowly walk your feet up to your hands and come to a forward fold. I didn't say that holding poses longer is easier. It's not. And when you get there, you can use blocks if you want. You can bend your knees and just lay your belly on your upper thighs if possible. And then think long back of neck. And then very slowly notice the feet connection. Think shins in, thighs out. And slowly straighten the legs to a full forward fold. And just pause there to notice the breath moving in and out. The feet planted and grounded. All parts of the feet being utilized, the legs. Maybe your hamstrings are talking to you. And slowly bend your knees and place your hands on your knees. And just notice when you slowly lift your torso up, come to chair pose, maybe bring hands to heart center. Just how that pose feels. And then draw your low belly up a little bit, lengthen, press into your feet, and come on up to standing. Good. Reach your arms up and stretch up. Grab your right wrist with your left hand and lengthen. Now keep both feet grounded and arc to your left. And we're going to stay there a while, so don't go too deep. Notice your spine. Notice your shoulders. Maybe shoulders stay square. Sometimes I like to bend my elbows to feel more. And notice where you feel the stretch the most. Keep weight in your right foot as much as possible. One more breath. And coming back to center, stretch both arms up. I know it's a lot, and we'll switch. The arc to your right now. Keep weight in the left foot. Still slow and mindful. Your spine's still long, but you're kind of in the arc position. Actually, try to visualize it in your mind's eye, what's happening here. Shoulders stay square. 2 more breaths. And then inhale, come back to center. Good. Bend just your right hand and place the hand in between your shoulder blades. Bend your left elbow and grab the elbow. And then just notice your shoulders. Armpits are hollow. Broaden the clavicles. Lengthen up. And get this stretch without doing much of anything at all. And then on your next inhale, stretch the arms back up. And switch on the exhale. So left hand to the middle. Right hand to the elbow. Very mindful. Stretch both arms up and sweep them down through heart center. Shake out your arms a little bit. That was a lot. And I'm going to grab my blocks and bring them to the front of my mat. If you want to, you can too. And just step between them. And then on your next inhale, stretch the arms up again. And this time, keeping the lower ribs connected, keeping the hip creases back. Just slowly look up, maybe even arc back just a little bit. Feel the feet firmly planted. Good. And then fold all the way down to forward fold again. Just notice how that feels. Maybe it feels like relief. Maybe it feels like a huge stretch still. Just really take it in. See how you can adjust to make it feel good, but like a nice stretch. And move your blocks to the highest height and have them on either side of your feet and with your hands on the blocks. Maybe even come up on fingertips so you're a little higher. Feels kind of like a pranam. And then just step your right foot back so you can ground the heel down. Your left leg is going to stay straight. And your left hip crease is going to stay back. Your right hip crease stays in line with the left. Think sits bones back and apart a little bit. Shins in, thighs out. This is pyramid pose or Parsvottanasana. And if it feels good like this and you feel weight in all parts of both feet, my right toes are turned out. See, check and see. Does your left heel line up with your left sits bone? Does your right heel line up with your right sits bone? Does your spine feel nice and long and connected? And then maybe slowly fold forward. If that's feels good, if it feels like a stretch that you want. Sometimes as you hold a pose longer, some things start shouting at you more than others, and just notice that. Back off if it's too much, or just notice it and think, oh, that's a really good stretch that I needed. I always keep a little baby bend in both knees just because it feels good to me. Good, and then bend the front knee, step forward with your right foot, and switch left foot back, and ground the heel down. Right leg straightens. Heels and sits bones line up. Hip creases make an even line. Shins in, thighs back and apart. Low belly up. Just notice that stretch. And maybe slowly fold forward, just noting, do I still feel weight in all parts of my feet, even the left heel? Little baby bend, fold forward. This is kind of a challenge of patience as well. How does your body react to the pose? Can it be more direct experience mode rather than react? Good. One more breath. Bend the front knee, step forward. Bring the blocks to the medium height and step back to a downward facing dog on the blocks. It just feels kind of different when you're on the blocks. Think of hollow armpits, broaden the clavicles, connection there. So really supported on both sides. And breathe, long back of neck. Gonna inhale, come to plank pose on the blocks. And exhale, push back, downward facing dog. And do that one more time. Inhale, plank pose on the blocks. Exhale, downward facing dog. Lower your knees now. Bring the blocks off to the front of your mat, actually. And you can even put them on the higher height. As long as you're moving them, you may as well, because you're going to need that. And come to downward facing dog. Inhale to plank. Exhale, lower to the mat. And just being very mindful, paying attention, direct experience. Think press feet down, lengthen, lift to cobra. Lengthen your spine. Just feel that pose. You don't have to lift very high to really get a big stretch. And lower down. Push back, downward facing dog. Again, every time you get into down dog, sometimes it's so automatic that you really don't pay attention. So just ask yourself, is this the alignment I want? Hi, Artemis, where you been? And then step your feet up to your hands, forward fold, and go ahead and come up to a pranam. So inhale, pranam. Exhale, fold. And I think this is going to feel good to come all the way up to standing. Sweep your arms up. Look up. And maybe lift your heart a little bit, keeping shoulder blades connected. Good, reach back up. And this time, fold forward, but bring your hands on the blocks. So you might have to adjust where the blocks are. You want to be approximately under your shoulders. And I'm going to encourage you to keep a little bend in your knees. And since you want to keep the weight right in the middle of your feet, you might have to move the blocks with that baby bend. So the weight's mostly going to be in your feet, but your hands are there to support you. I think I'm going to stand on the left foot and just extend the right leg behind me. Hips stay square. And then just work on your spine. So low belly's up. Lengthen the back of your neck. See what works to find some strength here. And then see, maybe you can extend your left arm back beside you. And be strong enough. See if you have the weight right in the middle. Maybe your right arm too for warrior 3. Artie's knocking me over. Good. Touch the right hand down. Touch the left hand down if you had them lifted. Hold the leg there for one more breath. And then touch it down. Touch the foot down beside the other one. And come on up to standing. It's a good challenge, but it's very mindful. Stretch your arms up. Look up. And then touch down to the blocks again. Remember, those blocks can move. Just see how it feels. Maybe bend in the knees. Standing on the right foot, extend the left leg. One side always feels different. I always have to think, do I have a curve in my low back? My low belly drawing up, and it's my back of neck long. Do I feel weight right in the middle of the right foot? All parts connected. Maybe extend the right arm back by the hip. And then just see, get a little bit lighter on the left hand. Maybe you can extend the left arm back as well. Warrior 3. Touch the left hand down. Touch the right hand down. Hold for a few more breaths. Maybe lift the leg a little higher. And bring it down. Good. Bring the blocks back to the outside of your feet. And then step back to a down dog on the blocks. And then go ahead and lower your knees and take a child's pose. Check in with your back. Maybe even round the low back a little bit. Takes a lot of strength, core strength, to do what you just did. So your direct experience should give you some high marks for effort. So just notice that. Thank your body for doing what it just did. Appreciate it. And come back up to downward dog. I'm going to use the blocks just because it's easier to step through, which is what we're going to do. So extend the right leg. Just hold there for a breath. And then step the right foot forward. Deep lunge. Good. Take in deep lunge for a moment. We haven't been there yet. How's it feel in your spine? How's it feel in your legs? Is everything lined up? Feel the sits bone, left hip and right hip creases in a line. And then go ahead and lower the back knee. And then just working from the ground up, come upright. And maybe slowly extend the arms up, Anjane Asana. Direct experience. Maybe you shift your gaze upward a little bit. Just take your time. How does it feel if I do that? If it doesn't feel stable, don't do it. Maybe you can lift your heart more, bend your right knee, but keep that left hip crease in line with the right. One more breath. And touch down. Good. Lift the back knee. Step back, downward facing. Extend the left leg. And step it through to deep lunge. I like to go slow on those. Just feel the deep lunge position. Hip creases stay parallel. Feel the feet. Lower the back knee when you feel like, oh, yeah, I feel really grounded. And then slowly make your way. Anjane. One side always feels a little different, so ask yourself, what's my tendency here? Stretch the arms up. Maybe start to shift the gaze up if that works. Doesn't have to do that. Maybe lift your heart a little bit, keeping the shoulders supported, both sides. One more breath. And touch down. Good, good. Lift the back knee. Step forward this time to a forward fold. And then slowly come on up. You don't have to sweep your arms. I just want you to feel strong and connected. And then once you get there, then sweep the arms. And maybe lift the heart. I like to keep a little baby bend in my knees because then I know my hip creases stay back. And then I can always re-straighten them. Squeeze to lift the kneecaps, lift the heart. Maybe lean back a little bit. Any back bend. Good, come on back up and touch down. Just pause for a breath and deep in a forward fold. Please step the right foot back first this time to deep lunge. I'm going to give you an option here. We're going to go to crescent warrior. If your balance is not good, you can ground that back foot down and do warrior one, or you can lower the back knee to Anjane again. Or you're feeling balanced, bring your torso upright. Just work from the ground up, being very mindful. Stretch up, crescent warrior. Slowly lift your gaze if that's appropriate. Lift your heart. You're feeling balanced. One more breath. And touch down. Good. Step back, downward dog. Then the right leg. And when you're ready, step it through to that deep lunge. Check your heel and sits bone alignment. Sometimes I swivel my hips side to side and I just want to notice, am I aligned? Feel all parts of your feet, especially the front foot connected, the back foot, the heel's lifted, but it's really active. Torso upright. Okay. And when you're ready, stretch your arms. Crescent warrior, maybe shift your gaze upward. Lift your heart. One more breath. And touch down. Step back, downward facing dog. I'm going to encourage you to move the blocks to the side. And then I'll give you a choice. If your body's telling you you need child's pose, take that. Otherwise, you can do a vinyasa with me. So mindfully come to plank. Exhale, lower. Inhale to cobra. Exhale, lower. Push back to all fours. Grab the block if you want. Downward facing dog. Extend the left leg and step it through to deep lunge. This time, ground the back foot down. Bring your right hand to your hip. Bring your left hand to your thigh and come up. So it's a warrior two position, but I really want you to straighten your front leg. Bend your back knee a little bit. Just check your alignment. Is everything lining up? And extend your arms. We're going to triangle pose. So work from the ground up. Make sure you're stable. Everything's really connected and good. Feels good. And then slowly come to triangle. You can bring your hand to your shin. That's where you feel aligned today, or the block's there. Block works just perfect for me. Notice your hip creases back, especially that right one. Really feel the back foot grounded as well as the front foot, all four corners. Lengthen your spine, lengthen the back of your neck. Maybe fold a little deeper if that feels right for you. Shoulder blades on the back. Armpits hollow, especially the right one. Good. Bend the front knee. Touch the hands down to the blocks. Step back, downward dog. And just pause there. Feeling. Being in your direct experience mode. Extend the right leg and slowly step it through. Just be mindful as you step it through. Ground the back foot down, left hand to the hip, right hand to the thigh. Check in with all parts of your feet, your foundation. Straighten the right leg. Extend the arms. Feel connected. When you do, when you feel like everything's where it should be, move into Trikonasana, triangle pose. Left armpit hollow, right armpit hollow too. Think shoulder blades on the back, but broaden the clavicles, stretch your arms apart, lengthen the back of your neck, lengthen your spine. You want to move deeper, you can. Still want you to feel just as connected. This is a good experience for you. Is your back foot still grounding you? One more breath. Bend the front knee. Touch the hands to the blocks. Step back, down dog. And again, move the blocks off to the side. And you get the choice, either child's pose or a little vinyasa. Just moving with me. If you're doing vinyasa, come forward to plank. Hold for a breath. And then lower on the exhale. Inhale to cobra. Hold for a breath. Lower back down. Push back to all fours. Bring the blocks under the hands. And come up, down dog. It's every step of the way. For those that want a little more challenge on these blocks, come forward to plank. Lift the right knee towards the chest. And then step it through, deep lunge. Good. Ground the back foot down. left hand to the hip. Right hand can stay on the block if that's what you want, or elbow to the knee, or Utthita Parshvakonasana. So I'm going to start with my elbow on the knee so that I can really feel my back foot super grounded, my hip crease back, sits bones back. I can turn the chest to the side a little more, hollow out the armpits. And then when I feel really connected, maybe I come to the block, extend the arm. Maybe arm by ear, maybe even lower to the floor. Your choice. Keep breathing, keep really scanning, staying directly in the pose. Good, and then touch the left hand down, touch the right hand to the block, turn the heel up, step back, down dog. How does your down dog feel and sound? Good. You want that extra challenge? Do plank to step through, or just extend the left leg and step it through. So I'm doing plank. I'm going to bring knee to chest, step it through. Round the back foot down. Right hand to the hip, left elbow to the knee. For me, I'm going to start that way. I'm going to start high. And then I can really check in with all parts. Maybe bring the hand to the block. Maybe extend the arm if that's feeling good. Maybe arm by the ear. Maybe then lower to the floor with my left hand. Breathing, scanning, feeling the pose, feeling your feet really strong. One more breath. You can do it. And touch the right hand down. Touch the left hand on the block. Step back. Down dog. And go ahead and lower your knees. Stretch your feet long. And then keeping the blocks come up to standing on your knees, but bring the blocks to the highest height and back by your feet. And then you'll just be standing on your knees. And if your knees are sensitive, you might want the knee mat. You decide. We're just going to slowly go into a little back bend here called camel pose. So you want the blocks as close to your feet as possible. And then just bring your hands kind of to your outer buns and think long side body, shoulder blades on the back, but broaden the clavicles. And then draw the low ribs down, but keep the hip creases back. So you're not scooping your tail down, but you're thinking, I don't want my hips to pop forward, but I want to not scoop my tailbone a lot. And then just slowly start to lean back. Keep looking forward. Lean back, lean back, lean back. That still feels good. Just reach your right hand. See if the block's there. And maybe the left hand. And if not, just keep your hands on your hips. And when your body says, oh, I need to come up, if you're feeling pinchy at all, you should come up. If you can feel length and connection, maybe lift your heart a little more, broaden your clavicles. If you feel nice and long in the back of your neck, you can slowly let your head go back. And then just the way you came, lift the head first, lift the heart up a little bit, bring your right hand to your hip, left hand to your hip, and come up and sit back on your heels for a moment. You can move the blocks out of the way if you want. Just take a few breaths there, just taking it in, how it feels. We're going to do camel pose one more time. And I'm going to give you, you can use the blocks again if that worked well. You can stay up on the hips if that worked well. You can curl the toes under and find the heels this time rather than the blocks. Or stretch the feet long and find the heels that way. Just depends on your back and how it feels. I encourage you to start higher. You can always go lower. So start high, start on the hips. Get the shoulder blades, the shoulders protected. So shoulder blades on the back, clavicles broadening, and then just slowly start going for it. Think lower ribs, keep drawing together. Slowly lean back, maybe hands to blocks, hands to curled under heels, or if it really feels good, you can go all the way to the heels with the toes stretched out. I want you to just feel your core lengthening and holding you there. One more breath. And come on, back up. Child's pose one more time. Breathe deep into the low back, even round the low and upper back a bit. So it feels more like a cat stretch in child's pose. And then come on up to all fours. And come down to your elbows and place your elbows slightly in front of your shoulders. And I like to interlace my hands because I feel more protected. And I'm just gonna have you go slow here. So notice if you can hollow out your armpits a little bit, even around the upper back, but then keep that feeling of connection in the front as you let the shoulders come on the back more. Press the forearms, the hands down. So you feel really protected front and back. Keeping the toes curled under, lift the knees. And maybe straighten the legs for puppy dog. And I'm going to encourage you to hold this, but if it doesn't feel good, you can come down. So just breathe into it. Notice the shoulders really protected. I have to feel my low belly drawing up so I can feel that long spine. Lengthening the back of my neck. Maybe allowing the heart to drop, but not at the expense of your shoulders. Keep pressing the forearms down. See if you can take 3 more breaths. And lower your knees. And come on back up. I'm going to have you grab your blanket again. And just like you did at the beginning, you're going to come back down onto the blanket. So the Just to remind you, the shoulder blades are on the blanket, but yet the shoulders drip off and come to the floor. So your arms are in cactus. Just lay there for a moment, see how it feels. Hopefully it feels a lot easier than when we started. That was my goal. And if it doesn't feel good, keep your knees bent. Your choice. Does it feel easier, Helen? Feels easier? Yeah. Feels way better to me than when we started. Okay, now notice how your shoulders are down. Bend your knees, bring your feet right under your knees. Bring your arms down. This is going to be a little weird because your arms are going to come up, but press the arm up to get the shoulder blades underneath you and then slide forward just a bit so you feel really grounded through the shoulders, and then lift to Setu Bandha. You can keep the chin lifted and then bend your elbows so that you can slide that blanket down right to where your low back is and lower down on top of it. So it kind of just cuddles into your lumbar area. You can have arms in cactus if you want. And then stretch your legs out there. This should feel really safe and protected. Just take note. Don't let your monkey mind start. Let's see how it feels. See if your body's going, oh. If there's still some place that needs attention. Now try this. Bend your knees. Feet right under knees. Lift back up to Setu Bandha. And then slide the blanket right under your tailbone. So right under your sacrum. And come back down on that. Well, this is going to feel weird because your tail's lifted. You have to kind of force a little curve in your low back and feel more connected. And then stretch your legs out if that feels good. You'll feel a stretch kind of across your belly. Don't do it if it doesn't feel good. Just take a few breaths there. Just notice. And then bending the knees again. Lift up enough that you can slide the blanket down so it'll be under your knees. Might have to scooch forward a little bit and stretch out again for kind of a Shavasana position. Sometimes with the blanket under your knees, it feels nice. If you like it, you can stay there for all of Shavasana. I'm gonna keep my eye on the time. Leave you here for about 2 minutes, and then you could move the blanket to your thighs if you want. Not necessary. If you like it like this, keep it there. As you begin to relax into Shavasana, I'd like to try a little meditation with you. It's not too different from what I always do with you. So you start with your breath. Just notice it. Feel the inhale and the exhale. And then just count 10 breaths. So I always do it like this. When I inhale, I say take. And when I exhale, 1. And then take, 2, and so on till you get to 10. And if you lose track of the counting, just start over at 1 when you notice. Now let go of the counting. And just do a little body scan from head to toe, noticing any tension, any muscle energy, and letting it go. And if you want to move the blanket to your thighs at this point, you can. If you like it under your knees, you can stay there. You'll soften your face, your jaw, your neck, shoulders, chest, upper back, middle back, low back, belly. Soften your arms, wrists and hands, fingers, pelvis, legs, ankles, feet. Just one more time on your own to scan. See where you can let go a little bit more. And because it was the 4th of July, Independence Day, here in the United States, we enjoy a lot of freedoms that the rest of the world, probably a lot of places, do not. But we always have freedom to choose what we think. Even people that are incarcerated get to choose where their mind goes, what their internal experience is. So just take a few moments to think about some of the choices we make every day and more internal choices. We get to choose what we look at, and see, to see the violence and the ugliness of human nature, or do you see the beauty and the grace in people or in nature or in animals? We get to choose what we hear. We can choose good music, good programming. We can hear loved ones' voices. Sometimes we get to choose what we smell or appreciate what we smell. We didn't really appreciate the forest fire smell, but we can appreciate smells when we're cooking. Just notice them and appreciate them. Or the smells of flowers outside. There's so many blooming flowers right now. The smell of cut grass. Just notice and appreciate those smells. Get to choose what we taste. We choose foods that are fresh, that fuel our body. Choose what we feel. Our thoughts take us to everything we feel, maybe our soft clothes, the sun on our face, feel of grass when you're barefoot. You get to choose who you spend time with. Lucky to choose to spend time with people who challenge you, help you grow, make you feel expansive. You get to choose how much rest and relaxation you work into your day. Get to choose whether you come to yoga class or not. What other life enhancing activities you choose to work into the day. And just reflect on a few things that maybe you can choose a little bit more wisely just for today. Just turn thoughts back to your breath again. To move and wiggle in small ways. Ready, draw knees in, pull to the side. Your time coming on up to seated. Bring hands to heart center. Namaste. Thanks for being here, everybody. And choose wisely. You can have a great weekend, and next week I'll be back if the 17th. So